Woohoo! Welcome back. Today we're going to be working on a problem from the homework, and this problem is about total cost. So in this problem, you're given the total cost in dollars of producing a product, and that's given by C of X equals, and then this expression. I copied it directly from the book. I would not necessarily have written it in this order, but again, I'm doing a homework problem, so I'm trying to keep it in the order the book would probably present it. X is given as the number of units produced. So, first question, give the total cost of producing 10 units. And I think what trips folks up sometimes is that this problem actually is fairly straightforward. So you're looking for like, oh, what's the trick? There's no trick in this one. The total cost of producing 10 units is just C of 10. Since X is the number of units, and they ask for 10 units, nothing fancy, and this is just going to be a calculator problem. Or, if you really like, this one is not impossible to do in your head because we're dealing with tens. If it were 7s or 14s, I would recommend definitely using a calculator. So you can either use a calculator or you can do this in your head. 200 times 10 is 2,000. 0.1 times 10 times 10. So this is 100 times 1/10. This ends up being 10. You can double check it on your calculator if you're not sure. And then this one ends up being, well, it's a constant, so 1,400. So we end up all together with 3410. You can also enter this in your calculator, and most calculators will be fairly straightforward. You can use order of operations and then just enter it as written. So 200 times 10 plus 0.1 times. Now, some calculators do not need the multiplication if you smush two things together. So you have to get used to your calculator. I have a particular one. I think it would allow me to do this without the multiplication, but I always write it in just in case. And I've got 10 squared. This one's got this handy dandy little 10 squared, or you can use the exponent key. And then plus 1,400, moment of truth. Woohoo, we got it, yay. So the first part really is just, do you know how to plug 10 into a function? So do you know how to read function notation? How you doing there, dinosaur? Blue Dinosaur is here to help us. I love having support. This, I haven't really identified what dinosaur this is, and in fact, there is a possibility that this is actually a sea-going dinosaur, so it's more of a, Loch Ness monster. It's not clear. This tail is a little bit flipper-like, but so I'm not sure if this is a carnivore or an omnivore or vegetarian. We haven't had that many discussions about it, but it's good to have a support animal around to help. Okay, let's go on to part B. Again, give the value of C of 100, and no trick here. You're just multiplying out. Do you know how to plug in 100? So this is 200 times 100 plus 0.1 times 100 squared plus 1,400. Now, in this case, I'm going to have to say, this is where my brain doesn't hold a lot of digits very well, so I'm going to default to the calculator for this one. You can absolutely do this one on paper or in your head. Awesome. I'm just thinking I have a much higher chance of making the mistake. So 200 times 100 plus 0.1 times 100 squared. I'm going to use my cool squared key, plus 1,400. Now, if you don't feel comfortable with typing all of this in, you could always do each piece separately and then add them up yourself. So if you're not sure exactly how your calculator works, one of the great things is if you're watching this and you've got your calculator handy, try just typing it in, see if it gives you this answer. If not, then you can always talk with me, say, hey, I'm not quite sure how to enter things in my calculator, and we can work on it together. Different calculators sometimes have slightly different rules about how to enter things, so just, I like Texas Instruments because it's pretty straightforward. and it's been consistent. Well, I've liked Texas Instruments since I've been using their calculators, which is most of my life. Okay, last question, part C. And this is in the homework, I believe this is multiple choice. But give the meaning of C of 100. So at its most basic, they told you C is the total cost. So the total cost of producing 100 units. So at its most basic, we just look at the problem itself and we look at the definition of X and we say, okay, that's got to be what it is. But the next question that I would ask, the follow-up, is when you're doing this problem, what is the total cost? And that means that if you want to produce 100 of whatever this unit is, if it's little cute little stuffed dinosaurs, or if it's ovens, or if it's, scooters or cars or whatever it is, you would plug in 100, and that would give you not just the cost of actually producing the items, but also the fixed cost. Remember that this is the variable cost plus the fixed cost. So it's the total. Oh, you can't see that. That's exciting. Let me see if I can squish this up a little bit. There we go. The variable cost plus the fixed cost. So this is the total cost for producing 100 units. And I'm realizing as I'm looking at this, I left one thing off. And depending on how you're entering this, if you're entering this online, I think it won't ask you to do this, which is what I was thinking. But I realized I should probably be just finish this up. So there's one thing missing. You may have noticed it. Give the value of C of 100. I answered this with a number, and I answered this with a number, but we're actually given units for these. We know what the units are, the total cost in dollars. So really, yes, it's correct, 3410 or 3,410, but I should include a dollar sign, and same thing here, the total cost. So sorry about that. I left those units off. You could also write, this is much more common, but you could also write out dollars with a word if you'd like. Technically, that would be fine. So that's it. That's how to do the problem. If you have questions, please definitely, email me, message me, and but hopefully this makes perfect sense. Woohoo! Okay. Math on. You guys are awesome. Woohoo.